December 7th, forever the day that lives in infamy. And that's because 80 years ago today, more than 2,000 Americans were killed during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. It led to the U.S. declaring war on Japan, entering World War II, and eventually leading the Allies to victory. Tom Czekanski is senior curator at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, and he joins us now to talk about the importance of Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. Tom, welcome to Quicktake. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us on what's been a very busy day for you. For a lot of people, 9/11 has actually eclipsed December 7th as the day of infamy, especially those who are young. How do you explain Pearl Harbor Day to those who only remember a post-9/11 world?
Well, Pearl Harbor really is very much equivalent to 9/11. And of course, the biggest thing is that although 9/11's triggered a long, long war, the Pearl Harbor attack brought the United States into a world war.
And one that we won, as opposed to what's happened after 9/11, where we're still kind of sifting through the fallout from everything. Tell us what your museum, the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, is doing to remember the day. I understand you have an exhibit on Pearl Harbor, and it's going to be around for a while.
Yes, we've just recently opened Infamy, Pearl Harbor Remembered, and that's a new special exhibit that looks at how Pearl Harbor is remembered, and that'll be open through June. But of course, in our permanent galleries, we have another more extensive exhibit that examines the road to war in Pearl Harbor and the actions of that day. And we also include Pearl Harbor in our signature film, Beyond All Boundaries, which gives a 45-minute overview of the war. So a very important event for America in World War II.
And of course, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, so I wonder how the current situation, COVID protocol, plays a role in your planning for the exhibit and how you're commemorating the anniversary.
Well, we are fortunate enough that given the current situation, we've been able to have live events today, but given our experience over the last 2 years, we also continue to have virtual presentations because it does reach so many more people.
Yeah, it makes it accessible to everyone in the nation and the world, really. I was thinking back to how, when I was growing up, I remember seeing World War II veterans going to Pearl Harbor to commemorate December 7th, speaking, and each year the ranks would get thinner and thinner, which of course makes sense. That doesn't really happen anymore because most of them are no longer with us. And this week alone, for instance, we lost the last surviving member of the Band of Brothers, Edward Shames, and former Senator Bob Dole, another World War II hero. Do we know how many surviving World War II veterans there are left?
I believe it's under 600,000. And that's of 16 million that served in World War II.
And you were able to recruit one of those veterans for your exhibit as well, because they'll be speaking. He'll be speaking to your audience and kind of commemorating the day for your audience.
Yes, at 11 o'clock, we had a presentation that included the last survivor of Pearl Harbor from Louisiana, as far as we know.
That's pretty impressive, and I'm sure a lot of people were looking forward to his remarks and what he had to say. Without so many living survivors of World War II who are able to share their stories firsthand, we really rely more than ever on manufactured depictions of the war. Hollywood depictions, really. We're talking about TV shows and movies as well. So if you could talk a little bit about how the Band of Brothers, TV shows like that, and movies shape our understanding of what happened.
Well, at first, I'd like to say that we're very fortunate because over the last 20 years that the museum has been here, we've been collecting the personal stories of those veterans. And so they may be gone today, but we have recorded their comments and their remembrances, and we're able to include those. We have 15 individuals, I don't think any of them are long with us anymore, whose stories and remembrance of the day at Pearl Harbor are included in our exhibit on video. But of course, for many people, the movies about World War II do play a great point in their understanding of the war. And it also helps that from time to time, these movies come forth and they reinvigorate people's interest in the war. And it's not unusual when you consider that many films were made in the 70s, and those similar topics have been remade today. And it, again, gets people interested, and they want to find out what their ancestors did in World War II and what happened in more detail.
What book or movie would you recommend to young people who are, obviously know quite a bit about World War II, but want to really dig in and learn more about what happened? What's a personal recommendation that you would put forth?
Well, I think Dr. Ambrose's Band of Brothers is a very good book because it covers one group of individuals from the time they get into the service until the end of World War II. And of course, they're just one group, but there are a great many groups, and that's a good place to start. And then after that, I would recommend you find something about an ancestor, perhaps, that you had. Almost every unit's got a unit history. Find that and learn about what your people did.
That's a great piece of advice. Finding that personal connection will always bring people closer to the event at hand. What surprises you the most as visitors go through the National World War II Museum on Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, as they comment on the exhibit and on the state of the world and how the country has responded to these moments of challenges in the past?
One of the things that most surprised me, I had a dinner with a curator last week, and we often have people who talk about that they were at Pearl Harbor. We didn't have anybody there who was at Pearl Harbor. We had a very original fellow. He said, I'm the youngest survivor of Pearl Harbor. My mother was 4 months pregnant with me when Pearl Harbor was bombed. And she was there. And I thought, well, that we've gotten younger and younger with our veterans and survivors. And that one has probably topped the list.
It's good to know. You'll be able to draw upon his expertise later on, if nothing else. I want to bring it forward to today because Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin today released a statement honoring the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day, and he linked it with the U.S.'s current efforts to protect the Indo-Pacific region. How would you explain that link to your museum's visitors who come through and are trying to understand how the past connects with what we're seeing today?
Well, after World War II, we made a commitment to the people in the Pacific that we would defend their rights and their countries. And we made a constitution with Japan that said they would only have a self-defense force. And so we have a long-standing obligation to protect these peoples. We can no longer afford, as America wanted to do before Pearl Harbor, to say it's a foreign war, it's happening elsewhere in the world. There no longer is an elsewhere in the world. We're all one world together, and we must act that way.
Well said. Tom Czekanski, really appreciate your joining us today on this 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Tom is senior curator at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Thank you so much.